So, the reportage, the general imagination and narrative of defense of India is generally army-centric. Of late, there are stories of the people from Air Force. Very few stories, come out of Navy, in terms of their contribution to India's defense. The one film made on the submarine that was sunk by the Indian Navy during 1971 war. I think that's the last I saw of, in context of the larger role of the Navy in the popular movie, journalistic, literary narrative. So can you just take us through what are the naval options which can be less than the threshold of a full-scale war? If I have to simply put it to my viewers, and placing Navy in context of India's defense, deterrent and deterrence.
Is that addressed to me?
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for that question. The first thing I'd point out is that the Navy is aptly called the silent service because any Navy in the world, because the minute it sails out more than 3 or 4 nautical miles from shore, nobody knows, nobody can see what's going on. While a lot is indeed going on at sea, and as you know, for the prosperity of any country, the maritime sphere is of the peace and tranquility is of utmost importance. So I think that is what essentially is the unseen job of the Navy, maintaining the 80% or 90% of the trade, keeping our sea lanes open, ensuring that the entire coastal communities are safe, and keeping a strong deterrent posture so that the war at sea cannot be escalated or thought of by the other person. Now, as far as options from the Navy are concerned, there are a number of options now. Having been in a position where I know these options, obviously, these are something that you cannot really talk about in public or should not talk about in public. So, because that is something that is, something that needs to be kept at a very, very confidential level. So I don't think that's apt to discuss. But what I would rather bring out is that, we should not despair at this time. I always see a lot of elements. We are winning this entire war with Pakistan. We are winning it comprehensively. You look at the economic situation that India has. You look at the diplomatic situation that we have. You look at the armed forces strength that we have. You look at the fact that Kashmir has been integrated back with India after Article 370 was abrogated. The world today has changed its view about Kashmir. You look at the images that you are showing across India and across Kashmir about the public reprehension or opposition to the attacks that were carried out within Kashmir for the first time the Band was called. So we are winning this war comprehensively. And Pakistan, as I mentioned in the beginning, is acting in desperation. So while coming back to your specific point about the Navy is concerned, there are a number of options that can be exercised, but I would not really like to identify any specific option because that's not correct. It sort of firstly is incorrect procedure. Secondly, it's not something that should be done. Suffice it to say that the
Okay.
options at sea, if exercised, will have a disastrous impact further on Pakistan.
Okay.
If they are exercised.
Okay.
So I think that is something which the decision maker will do. But I think we need to remember that we are winning this war. These are small battles and irritants, small for in the larger picture, very bad for the people who are there. The people who have lost their loved ones. For them, it's a life that has been lost. The entire lives have changed. So not belittling that enormous loss, but India has the upper hand, and we need to maintain that, as I mentioned, by having a very deliberate and, as all the panelists have mentioned, a comprehensive approach, well thought out, cool, calm, collected. We will strike when we want to strike, how we want to strike, and what we want to do.
Let me straight away go to Commodore Uday Bhaskar sir. Are we winning the war? And your comments on Pakistan's low nuclear threshold, sir.
Pakistan's nuclear threshold is an empirical fact, meaning that India and Pakistan both are nuclear armed and they are neighbors. And in the 1999 Kargil war, this was amply demonstrated that while Pakistan tended to be reckless in waving the nuclear sword, India acted with great restraint, and this in turn paid rich dividends to India in the politico-diplomatic sphere. Now, the nuclear card is always bandied, and this has been gamed many times as to when and how will the escalation take place. My limited response at this point is that I think we should acknowledge the fact that when I said India's response, any military response will not be cost free, one was pointing to the fact that in the event, hypothetically, if India carries out a strike, there is a Pakistani response, India then decides that it will increase the ante, as it were, and open a conventional front, then we are going up a couple of steps on the ladder. Where does the ladder peak? The possibility that Pakistan will use in the past, there's been reference to tactical nuclear weapons, a phrase that I do not personally like because there is nothing tactical about using a nuclear weapon.
Absolutely.
Now, that is the kind of apocalyptic scenario that I personally, as an analyst, would say one has to even allow it to enter the discourse in a very measured manner. Will Pakistan use its nuclear weapons? Now, there is a lot of speculation that at the end of the day, they will not take such a step because they know that the Indian response would be of an order that would cause extreme damage, almost to the point of erasure. Do we want to go down that path? Any sane, prudent kind of voice would say negative. And more importantly, the international community is not going to be sitting and allowing two nuclear armed neighbors to go down the path, just as India raised its voice, if you remember, in the Ukraine war.
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News 9, English news as it should be.